In this video, we're going to talk about how to use the Bridges intervention modules to deliver the activity section of your lessons during the math classes you engage students in during summer school. So we went over the math at home. This is your warm-up activity. Now we're into the activity part, the lesson activity part, Bridges intervention. Now you'll see here it says volume 1. You pay very close attention to the modules that they list right here, because modules 7 through 8 are going to be appropriate for second grade, whereas if you just started right with module 1, it would not. That would start with early counting and counting to 10. So if I click on volume 1, if you haven't used Bridges online before, down in the corner there's this little box, little rectangle. That's your table of contents. So click on that and instead go to modules 7 and 8. So here's hundreds, tens, and ones. So if I go to session 31, numbers beyond 100, this is the lesson plan for that session. And you'll notice it has 3 warm-ups. Now you've already done a warm-up with your students with the math at home. So it's up to you whether or not you want to do another warm-up activity. If you do, I would choose a short one. Like this first warm-up says counting forward and backward by tens. That's not going to take very long. Or this start and stop counting, where you're going to start at like 105 and stop at 116. Those are pretty quick. When we start getting out double 10 frames with Unifix cubes, it's going to take a little bit longer. So be aware of that. Up to you whether you use the warm-ups or not, but just I would advise to choose a quick one. Okay, so then when you get in here, the activity is really where your lesson is. And you're going to be doing this with the whole class. Many of these activities are set up so that since it's an intervention program, you're working with 1 or 2 students, or you might have students playing against each other. Because this is your lesson, and because of COVID, and you're also going to be doing the workplaces after, I would do it as the teacher doing the activity with the class. So if it is a game, I would do it as a teacher playing the game against the students, and the whole class can be engaging in the process. After the lesson, there are practice pages. The practice pages are always very short. Sometimes they're half a page. They're usually perhaps, 1 or 2 questions, sometimes up to maybe 10 at the most. I'll quick through really quick so you can see what a practice sheet looks like. So here's an example of the practice sheet for this module, where they're just going to be filling in the numbers, and you'll see that it's in half pages, so you don't have to copy as many. They give you a version, sometimes they give you a version A and version B. So if you do it one day and students aren't getting it, you do another day, you can use the different version of the program. So here's another example of a practice page. This is for the activity that is in the lesson. And then these are the cards that you would need if you were going to be in some vocabulary. Up here, you see the way it says version A? That's what I was talking about. Sometimes they'll give you a paper to do, and they'll give you a version A and a version B. That's so you could do it on 2 different days if you want to. And the students are covering the same skill, and they're not getting the same thing twice. You'll see that looks like there's a lot on here, but it's really only, 3 problems with different parts. These shouldn't take the students very long. I would advise you to use these as exit slips. The students are going to have the opportunity to show you what they know, show you what they learned. So this is some good data for you. So, have the students do it at the end of the class, keep it, look at it that afternoon, and know where you need to go the next day. You might need to repeat the lesson the next day. And that's how these intervention modules are set up. They're set up to be repeated. That's why you have an A and a B version of the worksheets. So you could repeat the lesson a second day and then do the version B the next day. So that is, totally up to you. It is summer school. You only have 12 sessions, but you really want the kids to get the stuff. So if they're not understanding what it is that they need to be doing, then it's worth it to repeat. So that's basically it. So you have a warm-up activities, which you can choose to do or not to do. If you do a warm-up activity, please have it be brief. You have the lesson, which you should do with the whole class, because if you were to put kids in partners and start getting out materials, it would take too long. And then there are the practice activities that you can do at the end. That's student individual work, so you can collect evidence of their thinking and their progress. So that should be 20 minutes of your lesson. So the next thing you're going to see is an example of an intervention lesson. I videotaped a student and I working on one together. The student's a first grader working on some very basic skills of making 10. So hopefully that will just give you an idea of what the lessons might look like. Okay.